Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be sharing about 8 or so different movies and limited series within the horror genre that had a big impact on me as a Christian and specifically what I learned from them. This will be a continuation on my yearly October series where I talk about various different horror movies within the context of my unique Christian perspective. So let's get started. Welcome once again, my name is Austin and this channel is all about helping you to dig deeper and go further to better understand faith and film and everything that's in between. If that's exciting to you, make sure you click that subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on any future content. Now real quick, before I get started with my list and what I've learned, again, I want to say a big welcome to all the new subscribers on the channel. The channel has continued to grow significantly over the past week or so, and I just wanted to say a big old welcome to all you new subscribers and anyone who has ever checked out a video on my channel. Thank you for watching and thank you for clicking on this video. Don't forget to share in the comments down below what lessons you have learned from horror movies. The first movie I want to talk about in this video is the absolute slasher classic from the 70s, John Carpenter's Halloween. Now this movie is one that I checked out for the first time last year and thoroughly enjoyed. I felt like it definitely lived up to the hype for me. It tells the story of an escaped mental hospital patient named Michael Myers who killed his sister when he was a child and has since grown up in this facility, and he gets out and is stalking all of these different people and specifically babysitters, including Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, throughout Halloween night. Now, if you want to hear more detailed thoughts on this movie, you're welcome to jump back to the video where I reacted to watching it for the first time and gave my thoughts on all that. But as a whole, the big lesson and takeaway for me with this movie was that there is evil in this world that we just may not ever understand. It's something that might be beyond our understanding and comprehension. And at many times we may feel like it will never go away. The big recurring cool thing with Michael Myers is he just cannot be killed. Even if he gets shot, falls off a building, stabbed, all of these different things, he comes back. And that is just dreadful to the characters in the movie and awesome for us as viewers as we keep seeing him kind of reincarnated throughout all of these films. But in watching this first movie, that's kind of a main thing that I picked up on. There is this evil, which he is kind of the representation of, that just we may feel like will never go away. And I felt like the Halloween movie did a great job kind of personifying that within the character of Michael Myers. The next movie I want to talk about is a shining example of a great sequel, and that is Dr. Sleep. Dr. Sleep tells the story of Danny Torrance, the boy from The Shining, all grown up, and kind of the traumatic events of his childhood, how they've affected him as an adult. The big takeaway I had from this movie is the dangers of locking away your past to avoid dealing with it in the present. And then along with that, being willing to open up those things and use that pain to inspire the shine of others. There's also many great moments that show the power of addiction as well as overcoming it, and lots of things to do with that I just thoroughly enjoyed about this movie. And I really am excited to check out the director's cut at some point and hopefully see those themes further explored and delved into. Next, I want to talk about the movie As Above, So Below. This is one that I checked out at least a year or so ago. It may have been a little longer than that, but is, in my opinion, a very underrated found footage style horror movie, and I really enjoyed this one. I haven't had a chance to revisit it yet, but hopefully will soon. So this movie tells the story of a young explorer who takes her friends down into the catacombs to kind of explore the historical significance of that, and while they're down there, they are faced with incredibly terrifying spiritual experiences, as well as these things, these horrific sights that kind of are reminiscent of things of their past. And the big takeaway I had from this movie is that oftentimes the only way out starts with us forgiving ourselves. Now, I won't go too much into detail on how that correlates with the story itself because it's a bit spoilery, but I think that's just enough of an intriguing statement to get you to want to check out this movie if you have not. Like I said, I consider it a very underrated movie and one that I highly recommend. I thought there was great moments that really helped to explore those themes in a really interesting, thought-provoking way. For my next pick and the pick after that, we're going to do my limited series picks for horror, and that's going to start with The Haunting of Hill House, which is one of my favorite series of all time. I've seen this series at least 3 or 4 times through, and I thoroughly enjoy it every single time. Now, this series flashes between past and present as a fractured family confronts haunting memories of their old home and the events that drove them from it. Now, one of the things I love most about this series, beyond the absolutely terrifying moments with the ghosts and all that that entails, is its themes on finding forgiveness and letting go of the hurt of your past. The way this series goes back and forth between the past and the present really helps to enhance and elaborate on these themes on forgiveness and why these grown-up children as adults are dealing with these traumatic things from their childhood and how that can affect you as an adult. It's beautifully conveyed and constructed throughout the series with creator Mike Flanagan at the helm. And then second to that, also from Mike Flanagan, the recently released Midnight Mass. This tells the story of a small island town, and after the traumatic events of someone who grew up there moving back home, there is also a new priest that moves in after the old one has been traveling for some time and has fallen ill. And then all of these miraculous and mysterious events start taking place, and we get to see how it affects the people of this small island town. As elaborated on in a recent video I did about this series, which has blown up on the channel and has been absolutely amazing, there are so many great things that I loved about this series when it comes to the theological kind of monologues and discussions that people have throughout the show, the different religious themes relating to hymns and scripture and worship, all of these kinds of things, especially when it delves into the dangers of fanaticism, all of those things. There's a really interesting kind of deconstruction of different religions, specifically kind of Catholic Christianity, as well as different denominations within that religion as well. So I thoroughly enjoyed kind of this deconstruction as well as the discussion and challenging nature of this series to really look deeper into your faith. I thoroughly enjoyed it in both this series as well as Mike Flanagan's Haunting of Hill House. Haunting of Hill House is still my favorite of his work, but Midnight Mass is a very close second or third for me. Next, I want to talk about the movie Saw. Now, this is one I don't have in a collection, so I'll just pop up a little image here. And I actually checked this one out on a friend's recommendation, even though this series never really interested me, and actually thoroughly enjoyed the first movie. It tells the story of 2 guys who are trapped in a bathroom and both handcuffed to pipes on opposite ends of the room, and this is a trap that they have to find a way out of. And as the movie kind of plays out, we see other traps that people are put into that are kind of reminiscent of different things they're dealing with or things they may have done wrong in their life. And what really kind of stuck out to me from this movie is the idea of a trap that you are in kind of relating to either something you're dealing with, a struggle, an addiction, something like that, or a wrongdoing that you may have committed, and it is almost a sense of a punishment for those things. And I thought it was a really interesting concept to kind of explore, specifically through kind of the horror genre. And I think it's really well done and really well conveyed throughout the movie, and in the theme of kind of valuing your life and not taking those things for granted. It's certainly a very interesting direction to take to kind of convey that message, but I definitely commend them for the creativity in that. Next, we have The Conjuring. Now, The Conjuring is another one that I checked out for the first time fairly recently, just a few months ago, I think. And it has since become my kind of go-to movie to tell people that this is the scariest movie that I've ever seen, and it's I'm not the only person to say that. Now, it tells the story based on true events of the Warrens, who kind of went around and dealt with spiritual and demonic things a number of years ago with different families and people and stuff to kind of help to cleanse them of those disturbing events. And what got me about this is not only is it based on true events, but being a Christian, I recognize and believe that spiritual warfare is a very real thing. And I think that this movie was incredibly respectful of the events that it's kind of based on. Now, these are not events that I've researched myself to know the truth behind, but I know from what I've heard in behind the scenes interviews and stuff that the creation of this movie was very respectful of the events that took place, as well as the kind of religious rituals and aspects that are portrayed throughout the film. Now, granted, I personally believe that God definitely has his hand over his children and will protect them from these different spiritual things that we cannot defend ourselves from. So while this movie terrified me to my core, I thoroughly enjoyed it as well. It's incredibly well made, and it kind of put a really interesting perspective for me and an outlook on spiritual warfare in a way that I had not considered it before. And lastly, we have A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now this tells the story of Freddy Krueger, who is kind of an evil monster demon type thing, who kind of attacks you and is able to kill you within your dreams. And what I really liked about this is the themes that I kind of gravitated to while watching it, of not fighting evil alone. Whenever the people in this movie kind of realize what's happening and who and what Freddy Krueger is, they're very quick to bring in friends and someone that they trust to kind of help fight him. And I thought that was a really great decision, both for the movie as well as for the thematic aspect of it, of not facing evil alone. That we are not made to do anything in life alone, but specifically facing evil, that is something you do not want to do alone. There are friends and family that can come beside you to help you get through these things. And then specifically with this movie, I really gravitated to the whole evil cannot get you while you're awake. Now this is taken very literally for the movie, of as long as they are awake, they are safe from Freddy Krueger, but as soon as they fall asleep, he can get them. And I really like the kind of correlation of that within the movie's context, as well as within the Christian faith context, because we are much more susceptible to being hurt spiritually or physically if we are asleep in our faith or lukewarm. But we need to be on fire. We need to be alert and awake within our faith to be able to kind of defend ourselves against these different spiritual attacks. And this is beyond anything I had expected to pick up on in the Nightmare on Elm Street movie, as it was just kind of an old slasher movie. But again, this horror genre has surprised me a lot over my time of exploring it over the past couple of years, and then specifically in the last year or so checking out some of the classic slasher movies, much more than I'd initially anticipated of picking up on when it comes to the themes that these movies focus on. Once again, don't forget to share in the comments down below your picks for what horror movies have taught you, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next video where I'm going to be watching The Thing for the first time. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you click that subscribe button down below so you don't miss out. I'll see you in the next video.